House of Ramirez does not do sports, politics, or religion. However, understanding that the city elections are this year and how impactful and important it is for all of us Atlantans, I have decided to open my platform to politics, to give a fair shot to each running candidate to tell their story. This conversation needed to happen, and we are having the conversation for the love of community. Hey guys, this is House of Ramirez. Y'all already know what's up. We out here in the hot streets of Atlanta representing A-Town Shouty. So I want to go ahead and let you guys meet one of my home slides here in Atlanta. He's doing it big, has been done it a long time big, and he loves our children, loves our community, and loves our people. Now, without wasting any more time, I'm gonna go ahead and bring Alfred Brooks. Alfred, can you please go ahead and tell us who you are and where you are from?
Hey, thank you for the opportunity to come and share space with you. My name is Alfred Shivy Brooks. I'm a school teacher by day. I teach high school economics, personal finance, and government in Riverdale, Georgia. I'm a resident of Grant Park, Atlanta. I have lived in many different areas in Atlanta. Lived over in East Lake for some time and have been in the Grant Park area for the last 11 years. I am the son of a Morehouse man, former NAACP member, as well as a Black Panther. I am myself a member of a community organization happening in Atlanta. So for the last year, I've been on the front lines advocating for social justice, pushing back against voter suppression, making sure that we're protecting the duty and the ability of teachers to do their work safely in schools. I'm just excited to be here with you and talk to you a little bit about how we're going to bring some change to Atlanta that is much needed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So many of you guys know I don't do politics, I don't do sports, I don't do religion, but I felt that it was necessary to open up my platform and bring candidates on to tell their story. And you, my friend, have a unique story. You have a deep cultured family here in Atlanta. Y'all do big, you're doing big, and you're also teaching our children. A lot of people underestimate teachers, and that's not a good thing, especially now with the pandemic. A lot of us parents, myself included, get to see a little bit more of what you guys really have to do. And we're not even seeing or tasting or getting a feel for the full picture. So I want to thank you for everything that you've been doing. I want to applaud you, pat you on your back, and give you a high five because you're doing it big. So thank you. I want to go ahead and dive into a few questions. They're a little political, so I'm going to go ahead and just pick your brain. Just, hit me with some answers, whatever you feel. I want to ask you, what do you consider to be the top 3 issues in the city of Atlanta? Now, if you don't mind clarifying, you're not running for a candidate seat for a district. You're running for post 1 at large. If you don't mind clarifying that before you actually dive into the three issues, I would appreciate that. What are those?
Well, so post 1 at large is a citywide seat. So you have to live in either districts 1, 2, 3, or 4, but you are voted on by every voting resident within the city limits, just like the mayor is, just like city council president is. So while I'm from District 1, I live in District 1, I have to keep in mind the needs of Atlantans throughout the entire city. And they differ from one side of town to the next side of town, from one neighborhood to the next neighborhood. I would say that, the 3 most important issues in the city right now are affordability in our city. We have the worst wealth disparity gap in the nation. Average Black household, Black individual makes $26,000 a year, while our white counterparts are making upwards to $90,000 to $110,000 a year. And in a predominantly Black city, when you have a wealth disparity gap that far, it comes with a lot of issues, which leads me to what is the next one, and that's violent crime in this city. We have an issue with violent crime right now. And I think it is a result of many things. And I think right now is a time where we have to be very careful, especially those who are aspiring for political positions, to tell the truth about crime and make sure that when we are talking about crime, we are painting the proper picture. When it comes to car break-ins, larceny, when it comes to breaking in and when robbery and those type of things, the numbers are actually down. And I don't think that part is talked about. No amount is acceptable, and it's something that we need to address. But I do believe that there are many politicians right now that are using crime as a way to stir up fear mongering and to get people to vote for them, because essentially they're like, I'm going to put on the proverbial cape and I'm going to save everyone. And I think we got to do a better job at being honest about what is happening. But beyond that, I would say, we really do have to address the violent crime issue, especially in regards to gun violence in the city. And I have some ideas about things we can do to that account. But also, I would say the responsiveness of our city is the third issue that we really have to address. Sometimes we patronize particular businesses, not because the product is better, but it's because of how you feel when you receive the service or receive that product. And the same thing could be true about the city here, except there is much to be desired. When you call to take care of something in the city, whether it be a pothole or a tree branch that fell in the street or a sidewalk that's crumbling or some infrastructure need, or even just a call about your water bill, you want to feel valued, you want to feel heard, you want to feel responded to, you want to know that someone's on the way to take care of that issue. And I think too often we get underwhelming levels of service in this city. And I think it's time for us to be very intentional about having a better and more responsive city than we have right now.
So thank you for that. I mean, that's true. Regardless, like post one at large, a lot of people that don't know now they know. Thank you for clarifying that. When you actually are running for that seat, it's the whole city of Atlanta. And the fact that you're paying attention to all parts of Atlanta, not just your district, is important. So that's something to highlight. Now, the three things that you mentioned, I would agree with you. So first, you mentioned affordability. You need to make sure that you can afford to live in the city that you love. And there's nothing wrong with being in a city that you can afford that you love. That's how it should be, right? So the fact that you're paying attention to that, it's important. We all have family members. We all have family, regardless of what size. And we need to make sure that we're all having that equal opportunity to stay close to each other. And violent crimes. You mentioned it is true. A lot of people are using that to piggyback ride to go ahead and fear people around the community to ride off of that for their campaign or just personal gain. But there's nothing to be feared. We are a strong community. We are a great city. We just need to make it better. We need to find what issues, pinpoint them first, what issues need solving, and start mapping out what it looks like to solve that. Now, a lot of people in the city, from top rank to community, we're all doing our best. So in order for us to pick somebody that knows the city and give us good results, we need to pay attention to who's paying attention to those crimes. There's a difference, but also what comes with it. Why are the people committing crimes? What areas are the crimes being committed in and why? So when you target the why, you could get to the solving point. So you're right. And then responsiveness. Now, my platform is all about positivity, so we're not bashing nobody. But, I give kudos to people that are in place, but we could do better, and we're gonna do better. Our generation is actually the generation that's healing from past traumas and are actually picking up that baton from our elders to keeping shit moving in a positive direction. So we gonna get shit done. Now, responsiveness is a thing. When we need issues solved, we need that in a timely manner. Sometimes it's garbage, sometimes it's lights, like you mentioned, sometimes it's water, sometimes it's a tree fell down, sometimes who knows what the issue is, but like others mentioned too, if we're paying for it, we need the results for it. So those are three great things that you're pinpointing out. Thank you. Now I want to ask you, what makes you want to do this job? Now everyone has this thing. Sometimes it runs in your family, sometimes it doesn't, and that's cool. Sometimes it's one thing that happened in your life that just triggered something. You're like, you know what? I want to do something for my city, and you start community activism, community work, regardless of what it is. What is your motivation, Alfred? We want to know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a great question. I think everyone has different reasons for why they want to go into politics or why they want to run for an office. For me, public service and being a public servant is everything. It's what I do in being a teacher. I serve our communities day in and day out through my work, right? And as an educator, we know we're doing so much more than just teaching curriculum. We are essentially caseworkers, we are social workers, we are parents, uncles, brothers, right? We're counselors, we're so many different things. And I think more than anything else, that's what we need in our city council right now. Like, people need folks that are going to go above and beyond, right? Not just stand within the purview of showing up at City Hall and just voting up or down on a thing, but being responsive to the needs of people across generations. And I think that's something that as a teacher, I have the unique transferable skill set to do. I take care of young people. I take care of their parents. I engage with their grandparents, right? We're engaging with the entire community. One of the things that really got me to run for this particular seat was seeing a need for proper legislation and proper voting out of this particular seat. Right now, we're at a time where a Breonna Taylor would never get to run, where an Oscar Kane will never get to run, a Jamarian Robinson will never get to run, right? And it's the voices of those young people, those Black people that need to be heard. And so this community, Atlanta, marched for an entire year, making a loud call for real police reform, common sense police reform. And when the opportunity came to do it, the person who is in this seat did not have the will to actually engage in that reform. They voted it down. And for me, that was definitely one of the straws that broke my back. That was one of the things that had me say, I can no longer be represented by someone who is not listening or responsive to the call, the hurt, the need from our community. And so it really got me off of the fence. And then we look at some of the other issues that we have in this city, where there seems to be a lack of political will to end mass homelessness. We have over 3,200 unsheltered individuals in our community. And, my feeling is while this number is too large, it is not out of our reach to be able to solve it, to be able to do something about it. Our city has over 900 acres of undeveloped land, 900 acres of undeveloped land that the city owns. We could use less than the police department's overtime budget to build tiny home villages and transitional housing and provide full wraparound services, offer people the opportunity to get to mental health care services, physical health care services, job readiness, training, and tooling. Like, we could really change the lives of our residents, but instead, the person who is in this seat decided to turn what was a homeless shelter into a jail. And they decided to create laws in the city that made it illegal to ask for money, and hid homelessness during the Olympics, and continued to, instead of head on deal with this issue and create opportunities, decided to use it as an opportunity to put boulders under bridges or barriers under tunnels and these type of things. And I think we just need more engagement and more responsiveness to what real everyday people are going through. And so long as we do not have change, we will continue to be pushing against oppositional forces on council. I think from the outside looking in, people see Atlanta as being an extremely progressive city. And I think while our residents are definitely progressive, unfortunately, our council is not. And it's time for younger, more forward-thinking people to have a seat at the table. And lastly, look, I come from hip hop culture. 2003, I was a Freestyle Friday Hall of Famer on BET's 106 in Park. Hip hop is the voice of the youth. And unfortunately, hip hop has never had a legitimate seat at the table, and especially the local table here in the city of Atlanta, which, by the way, I mean, let's be clear, Atlanta influences everything. Atlanta has been the heartbeat of hip hop culture for the last 20 plus years. And so I believe it's time for someone who is of the culture to be on council, so that our culture, our people are normalized when we're creating policies, and we're not demonized or criminalized because we're not at the table. There's a saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think for too long, our culture and our people have been on the menu, but it's time for us to eat too.
So yeah, so to touch back on what you were saying, yeah, our kids definitely are in schools with teachers that are essentially raising them. And I'm a mother, so I know. And I tell teachers all the time, because I have an essential worker series. And when I talk to teachers, I'm like, you ain't gotta say it, I'll say it. Y'all raise our kids. If and it's not just on the clock session, it's after hours. And if their mama got something going on, or they daddy got something going on, the family got something going on, teachers are involved, teachers are engaged. So it definitely takes paying attention to the needs of the community to be able to solve these problems. Now, you said what you said, and I respect it. I give you an open platform. I don't bash anybody. You're just stating what you feel, and I respect people's point of view. So we're going to leave it at that. What I will say is, as a woman with 3 kids that has been homeless, homelessness is actually a topic that hits home, and it's not being addressed a lot here in the city of Atlanta. It's only being addressed when there's a protest or something's going on, or a crime's being committed and somebody get called out or caught in the camera that's homeless. But anything can happen at any given point that could put you in that situation. Now, how you come up out of it is depending on the people around you and the resources, and how much mental breakdown you haven't had. Because if you've been broken mentally, then that shit's gonna be hard to climb out of. So I want to go ahead and touch up on that. That's true. Homelessness is a topic that hits everybody, and a lot of people are embarrassed to talk about it. Other people like myself are open about it. And it's time to focus on that. See how we can help our citizens that are displaced here in the city. Now, when it comes to the police department, we do need cops. Like when molesters and rapists, I've been molested, I've been raped. So I do need cops out there, and I have kids. I need them. We need them. But we can balance it out with PAD or other organizations that have people in a community that have degrees to help with mental shit when it's not a rapist, and it's not a molester, or it's not somebody that's actually hurting somebody in that way, like a murder or whatever. But we do need law enforcement. We just need to work with them and balance it all out, so community is working with. So as long as we all know our roles and we all start playing them roles like we started doing, that's all that matters. Well balanced out community. So I'm with you there. I like the fact that you see different things in the community and you're pointing out what you want to elevate and what you want to better moving forward. So I like that. I want to go ahead and ask you, what is unique about you that you bring to this job? Like, what makes you unique?
I think the thing that makes me unique is the fact that I'm not waiting to be elected to do the work. So I've always been in the community on the ground doing the work. And literally, it was the young people who I marched with throughout all last summer, throughout all, this summer, that really pushed me to put my name on the ballot. As we walk through the streets of Atlanta, and I'm talking about from Bankhead to down in Clayton County, up through Marietta, up through Buckhead, through Midtown, through downtown, around the Capitol, in the halls of the Capitol, when my sister Park Cannon was arrested for knocking on the governor's door. It is the reality that there's so much work to be done. And shout out to our elders and those that have come before us, those who have been doing the work before us. But one of the things that I love about a great scholar named Nipsey Hussle is that he told us it's a marathon and that the marathon continues. But the marathon also comes with the baton. And at some point, it's time for us to pass the baton for the next generation to do their part. I'm a father as well, father of 2 boys. One is 15 and one is 5. My 15-year-old is a sophomore at Maynard Jackson High School. I raised my sons to be prepared to run their leg of the race. I don't raise my sons to continue running the race until I have nothing left. The benefit of a marathon is that you run until your legs get a little weary. And then it's time for someone with fresh legs to start picking up the baton and running as fast as they can. And I think this is what we need right now. Now, being an educator means that I have the ability, I've had my finger day in and day out on the pulses of the community. I know what our communities need. I see it, right? I see it as myself as a working person. I see it through young people who have their deficit areas and their needs and access that they need. I see it from their parents, their grandparents. And I think that's what we need, someone who's tapped in across generations. But also I'm a business owner and an entrepreneur. I'm very successful in having a platform via social media in doing the work around anti-racism with educators throughout the country and the world for that matter. So I know what it looks like to create jobs for people. I know what it looks like to be innovative. I know what is needed. And also I'm tapped in with the streets. Like I'm outside, right? So a few weeks ago, I was outside as the Atlanta Homeless Union, a formation of unsheltered individuals came together and they were advocating on the grounds of City Hall as they created a tent encampment and slept on the grounds of City Hall overnight, asking for sanitation, asking for clean water, access to food, housing, a seat at the table, to just be heard by people on council. And literally I called all on council and only one person responded and showed up. And I was there as many of them got arrested. And was there to help get them bailed out of Fulton County Jail. I was there to get them out and then continue to work with them day in and day out up until through this morning. I'm getting text messages from some individuals out there. We need people who are willing to be on the ground, boots on the ground, doing servant leadership. It's time for us to get folks to come from out of their ivory towers and meet the people where they are and do the work for the people. And I think that is something that we're not seeing enough of, not only in this city, but throughout the country. And I think it's that heart, that will to be present that our people are really looking forward to right now. And that comes with voting my name on the ballot, that they know they'll get that kind of leadership and that kind of shoulder to shoulder presence.
Dope. So what you're pretty much saying, what makes you unique is you're a grassroots man. Your boots on the ground, action packed, don't play with you. If you need something done, go ahead and hit you up. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, that's absolutely fair. I mean, I can remember 1:00 in the morning, getting a phone call from a former district attorney candidate at the time, Christian Wise Smith, who said, you know, Shivy, someone just got shot in the drive-through of the Wendy's, not far from your house, and the community is in uproar right now. I need you to come help. And I hop out of the bed at 1:00 in the morning and I go down there, and it is the relationships that I have in the community. It is the relationships because of me being present that no other person in this race can offer, that I have the trust of the people that they would respond. But unfortunately that night, you know, the result was many officers decided they wouldn't show up to work the next day. And I told organizers and people who are part of my movement to not be outside the next day. And unfortunately, we saw what happened. That Wendy's burned down. But that Wendy's would have burned down had we not been there the first night. So it's that kind of impact that we have through our presence and my willingness to even put myself in the way of danger to do what I know our community needs. And that's just for someone to sometimes be there, to listen, to be the voice of reason.
And you seem to be doing that very well. So I want to go ahead and give you your props, your kudos, your what ups now, because along life, we realize that we tend to value people after they're gone, and we need to appreciate them while they stay here. I appreciate you for everything that you've been doing.
I want to say thank you and show my appreciation for that affirmation. But that is who we are as people of color by nature, right? Individualism is not a quality or a characteristic of who we are. We are villagers. And when we behave as villagers, all of the things that you're giving me praise for are normalized and expected. And I think we need a return to the normalization of just being present, of acting and behaving like a village. I don't really deserve any flowers for any of that, um, because this is what should be expected of us. We have a responsibility to be present, especially for the most vulnerable people in our communities. I had no idea who H.O.R. Brooks was that night. We didn't even know the name of the individual who was shot. But come to find out, he was a cousin of a close friend of mine, right? So when we treat all like family, when we treat all like part of a whole, then we get the leadership we deserve. I saw this video the other day. It was from a pastor. And he said, you know, you slam your hand in the door and your hand is hurt, right? But your whole body is jumping up and down. Your feet didn't get impacted by slamming your hand in the door, but your whole body was moving. And essentially, that's what leadership in the city has to be like. See, leadership may not get directly impacted, but they should feel the pain of the other side of the body. But you can only feel that pain if the entire body is connected. So when we have leaders that see hurt happening on one side of town, but don't feel called to respond to it, then you know they're not connected. And so it's time to make sure that we have leadership that is connected, because it's the only way we're going to have a more responsive city. And it's the only way we're going to move forward and do better for all of our citizens in the city.
I appreciate that, because it's true. It's a collective that we are. And it should be our duty. It should be everybody's duty to want to do right by our neighbors, regardless of what side of town you're on. And we don't see that enough. That's why I was giving you kudos, because we don't see that enough. But I appreciate you. And you drove a good point there. It has to be a collective effort. It has to, from all ranges, you know. So thank you for that. I want to ask you, why do people, or why should people vote for you over other candidates? Like, you know, some people say, oh, because I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But why should people vote for you over others?
You know, I will say this. We have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to candidates, especially in this race. I have personal relationships and foster personal relationships with some of the other men running in my particular race. And there are some extraordinary gentlemen who are also seeking to lead in this seat. What I will say is that people know that you can touch me. People know that I'm present. People know that I am going to work tirelessly and that I will speak truth to power and that I cannot be bought. They know that I am a man of high integrity. They know that my work ethic is unmatched. They know that I will be a part of why Atlanta lives up to the promise and what it looks like to everyone from the outside. They know that they don't have to pick between the lesser of two evils. They know that I'm not a politician, that truly I am a servant of our people, that I'm a brother, that I'm a father, that I'm real, that I'm authentic, and that I'm different. And I think it's time for us to have some of that. I don't think we have to pick and choose or wish that, you know, we had this quality or that quality and feeling like there's some deficit area. I think we can genuinely have real leadership, that we can have leadership that cares. And it's time for that.
So, most def, you know, you are a people's person, just like everybody else running for this seat, everybody else wanting to help Atlanta. So I want to go ahead and just shout everybody out running. And I do believe that that's true. You know, people want to connect with people right here in the community, and we all come from Atlanta, but there needs to be a connection still held. And most of us have that, whether we're running or we're in the community or we're a business owner, we're a parent. So it's nice to see that you're a parent, you're a community activist, as well as our neighbor. So we're easy to access you. So I love that. I appreciate that too. I want to go ahead and ask you right now, my platform's here and we're spotlighting you. I'm going to give you my platform so you could go ahead and spotlight somebody, shout somebody out, because that's how we do it. House of Ramirez, we shout people out, especially people that's been in your life or in your career, holding you down, because you know it takes a village, like we were just talking about. So go ahead, shout somebody out, short list, and go ahead, give us your details so we could follow you and support you on social media.
Yeah. Well, look, Ms. Ramirez, I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you, to share space on your platform. I mean, we live in a world where talking about politics is not the sexiest or coolest thing to talk about all the time, right? Especially local politics. You could be talking about walking up crates right now and probably get more viewership, right? But you know, some people who I'd like to shout out, I'd like to shout out my grandmother. Who came from Guyana, South America in the 70s, who had a 6th grade education, who was adopted and treated like an indentured servant in her home growing up. I like to shout out my mother, who came here to America, who excelled, who I watched finally get her college degree when I graduated my 8th grade year. I like to shout out my father, who raised me to always be aware of my responsibility and duty to our village. I'd like to shout out the Black women who support my campaign and do the work to make this possible. I'd like to shout out my wife for sacrificing and really taking on a lot of what happens in our home so that I might be able to serve our community. I'd like to shout out the community, right? Our residents, our neighbors, the people who will come out to vote for this election. We have 192,000 voters in the city of Atlanta, but unfortunately, maybe 100,000 people show up to vote at all. And so I think right now is the time where everything we marched for and fought for the last year is on the ballot. It's on the ballot. And we make a decision now. Did we mean everything we said? Did we mean everything we fought for? And if you did, then I call you to please come and support my campaign. You can follow me on Instagram. My personal Instagram account is at Call Me Shivy, SHIV as in victory, Y, Call Me Shivy. You can follow our campaign page, which is brooks4atl.com. And you could go to our website right now. You can join in and volunteer with us. You can phone bank with us. You can donate. And we always need contributions to help us out because it's not free. And we are going against a giant. So I would call you all to please go to brooks4atl.com and contribute and join in. And more than anything else, the most important thing, whether you vote for me or you vote for anyone else, is to show up and vote, right? Because we can't complain about things if we don't get out and vote. And whatever you don't change, you choose.
You know, and it's just amazing that you get the opportunity to highlight somebody and you highlight everyone. You don't leave anybody out. And I've been seeing that's been consistent throughout different candidates. Nobody's selfish in this. You know, the fact that you shout out your family for, you know, our elders, they paved the way for us to be able to be great. So shout out your family, your grandma, your mama, your wife, your child, your children, you, and everybody that's coming after you that you're paving the way for. Like you said, it's a marathon. So we passing batons around here. So it's a team effort, it's collaborative effort. So shout out everybody that shows up to the polls. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know schedules are hectic right now for the next 60 plus days. So I appreciate you big time. It's the first time, but it's not the only time you're coming on my show. And until next time, bro, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate getting to talk with you and getting to know you. You know, we live both in the southeast side of town. So I look forward to seeing you outside in community events. We actually will have a community event at Lil Ozio's next Thursday. So I definitely invite you to come out and share space with us there. And just want to say thank you for helping to get more engagement among our generation, especially who have an absolute responsibility to live up to everything that generations before have prepared us to do. Now is our time. And so it's either we show up or we continue to be left out. And I think we know better. So thank you.
Most def. Peace.
Make sure to follow House of Ramirez on all social media platforms.